Mr. Speaker, I rise today to relay the issues related to social development and social protections in a protracted crisis, which were presented and discussed by the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean at the fourth session of the Regional Conference on Social Development in Latin America and the Caribbean, held from October 26 to October 28, 2021. Mr. Speaker, according to the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, Bermuda has been living a protracted crisis since March 2020, whereby our population has been facing heightened risk of death, disease, and breakdown of livelihoods over an elongated period of time. The COVID-19 pandemic and damage spurring from our annual hurricane seasons require interventions that are framed as holistic approaches to development. Mr. Speaker, the World Health Organization has estimated an additional 38 billion COVID-19 vaccines are needed to reach the aspirational 70% population coverage rate worldwide. Bermuda was commended, noting to be one of the 5 countries within Latin America and the Caribbean region who will meet the global COVID-19 vaccination coverage goal by the end of 2021. Mr. Speaker, Bermuda is amongst the regions that have suffered the most economic and unemployment regression worldwide, and estimates show that only 5% of our neighboring countries will recover. The 2021 edition of the Bermuda Job Market Employment Brief highlighted that between 2019 and 2020, we have seen a total jobs filled decrease by 5.7%, which represents the largest year-over-year decrease since 2012. The social impacts of disasters are compounded by economic losses. There is a growing consensus that inequality is an enemy of productivity, learning, and innovation. For Bermuda's vulnerable population, unequal access to health and social protection services has meant a hard choice between livelihood and exposure to contagion. Mr. Speaker, through cross-jurisdictional analysis conducted by the United Nations and regional governments, it has been determined that women and young people have been the most impacted demographic by COVID-19 pandemic and recent natural disasters. It is estimated by the end of 2021, 79% of population within the Latin American Caribbean will earn revenues below the national and regional poverty lines. This is an increase of 22 million people from 2020. Recent data from the Department of Statistics reveals that in 1 year from 2019 to 2020, that the disparity gaps between our demographics have widened. In 2019, the pay difference between men and women was estimated to be 8.2%, and this rose to 9.7% in 2020, further exacerbating gender-related issues. On racial terms, in 2019, the pay difference between blacks and whites was calculated to be 36.3%. This has risen to 39.1% in 2020, deepening Bermuda's wealth distribution gap. Mr. Speaker, echoing the sentiments from the fourth session of the Regional Conference on Social Development in Latin America and the Caribbean, recovery from a social development crisis requires a government to build forward better, with a leave no one behind approach, with equality and sustainability. Transformational approaches should focus on guaranteeing income, access, expenditure reduction, and cash transfers. Mr. Speaker, as we have been impacted in one way or another by the COVID-19 pandemic worldwide, there is an urgent call by the international community to encourage governments to take a mainstream approach to mental health in incorporating support systems into social protection frameworks. Mr. Speaker, as we move to a post-pandemic state and attempt to mitigate the effects of climate change, governments within Latin America and the Caribbean region have recognized the need for creating vulnerability index as a replacement for the gross domestic product as an indicator of development, inequality, and stability of social protections. Mr. Speaker, the public should be made aware that the UN Women of the Caribbean extended an invitation to have an initial dialogue with government of Bermuda. The aim of that meeting was to discuss strengthening the social frameworks that will build capacity, along with innovative financing opportunities to enhance Bermuda's social resilience. Mr. Speaker, I will provide updates as these discussions progress. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.